Wanted to do a little video on throttle body talk. Overall, this engine is quite simple. There's no power steering, there's no air conditioner, single little belt, inline 4, 8 valve, super simple. Throttle body injection, single injector. The ECM does basically nothing, and part of that is this is a 1990, which the first 2 years of the Sidekick and Tracker are unique in many little different ways, from 91 to 95. The ECU and throttle body being one of them. And overall, this is a very simple setup. However, idling is complicated, and it's most complicated on this first sub-generation from 89 and 90, and what controls it. Right now, we're idling pretty consistently about where we need to be, 850 to 900 RPM, maybe a little high. It should be around 800 plus minus 50. It'll high idle around 900 to 1,000. But the mechanisms that control that are rather complicated. So we have all of our vacuum lines. You have your idle speed control valve here. And then under that, fixed to the throttle body, is an idle air control, which I don't know if that's even serviceable. I can't get those screws off, and I don't want to bust them. Below that, you have your EGR valve, which I cleaned that up quite a bit. It wasn't stuck, but it was gunked up pretty bad and wasn't fully opening and closing under throttle. Beyond that, on these, unique to these first 2 years, is this guy. This is it's an idle assist. Basically, it's controlled under vacuum. You can follow this vacuum line over to this VSV valve, and under the right conditions, this will open and pull a vacuum. It's supposed to pull it off, but it'll push this lever, and it can push the throttle open, basically, so it can modulate the throttle by vacuum. That's only on the 89 and 90. And right there, that screw, they call it the idle speed screw, but it's a duty cycle screw. If you really dig deep on people who've worked on these things, they're like, just don't go messing with that, because that can throw your throttle position sensor, this thing right here, off, and it'll throw your ISC off, your idle speed control, which it can be adjusted. There's a cover on the back. It's probably hard to see under there, but there's a cover you can pop off the back, and there's a screw in there. I don't know if I have to mess with that or not, but basically, if you have a duty cycle meter, you can set it up to where you ground this green wire to the black wire, which controls something, I forget. But basically, it forces this guy to be under control. And you probe these two pins, this kind of light green and blue, and red wire with the duty meter, and you can read how this is cycling. And basically, you then come to that screw and adjust it until you're about 50%. I tried that, I couldn't get it. Mine says like 100%, and it'll flash lower. I don't know if I'm reading it, if I'm getting a bad reading, if something else is going on. I'm not really sure. We're idling okay, but I don't know that there's no vacuum leaks that I've found, but maybe there's and we don't surge, we're not running high, so I don't know if there's any vacuum leaks or seals or gaskets that are bad. Doesn't seem like it. When I first got it running, it surged up to 3,000-4,000 RPM, but it turned out the throttle cable was too tight, and it was just pulling the throttle. So once I loosened that up, it calmed down. But then it was idling too low. I did some fiddling, cleaned up the EGR, and turned that screw when I wasn't supposed to. And I don't know, it's settled in. I don't know if it just needed to run a little bit and kind of wake up after, who knows, I don't know, this thing probably hadn't run in over 10 years. And so maybe it's that. the interesting thing about these 2 years is that the ECU or ECM, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't even control spark. So you can technically run this engine with no computer. It'll run like crap, but if you provide it fuel, you know, just spraying into the throttle body with like a starter fluid or something, and crank it, it'll run. And the spark, you know, you have your distributor there, it'll be generating spark. The ECU in this one only monitors spark and will throw an error if it's wrong. But that also means it doesn't control spark advance either, so you have to make sure your spark is good. Yeah, this is one of the challenges with this model year, is just learning all these little things. This is an oddball, and it makes it hard to work on, because that idle speed control valve, you can't find them. The IAC is not replaceable from what I understand. I think you have to replace the whole throttle body. So these things are getting super rare. You can't buy them. You're lucky if you find, you know, you got to go find one off of a junkyard car, or buy one, because that's, you know, they only made them for 2 years. The 91 and 95 throttle bodies are very similar, but some things changed, and you need a different ECU. They moved more things to the computer, like spark control, spark advance, things like that. So the way you tune them and the way you treat them are different. Maybe that's something I do in a long future, is I had an opportunity to buy a wiring harness with the computer a month ago. I probably should have bought it, because then I probably could bring in that whole wire harness with the computer and run in a new throttle body and run it like a 91 plus. But you know, that's way too complicated for what we're trying to accomplish in this short. We basically have 2 months left to get this ready for the 24-hour lemons. So it's running right now. I want to see how it runs once we get the wheels on, and you know, get it under load. Right now, you know, idling and just kind of sitting here free spinning up on jacks is one thing, but I want to see this thing operate under load, see how it does. The air filter was insanely dirty. You know, it's trash, and so it was clogged up pretty bad. And you know, this is solid paper basically. Once I took it off, it was hesitating. It would idle great, and then it would hesitate when you push the throttle, and so I just took it off, and the hesitation went away, which is a good sign. So I'm hoping, you know, we get that on with the fresh air filter, and we'll at least be okay. I hope we're not in like some like limp mode or failure mode, and it's just kind of running, because again, the ECU doesn't do a whole lot on this thing, so it could be partially running, and it's just kind of in a survival mode essentially, where it's on a backup system. I don't know yet. There's still some more diagnostics I need to run. It's kind of falling lower priority for the other things we need to do, because it's like, well, if it runs, it's fine. We'll take care of this if we need to later. Got a bit of a coolant leak there, a weepy leak. Unfortunately, the bolt head snapped off, and I'm guessing because this coolant's been weeping into that bolt hole, and that thing is corroded in there very nicely. I don't even know about that one. I'd like to at least open that up, because the thermostat's under there. It might be important to replace that, or at least get a new gasket on there, or some, you know, put some gasket maker and just get that so we don't have a weepy leak. It seems to be worse when it's cool. Once it heats up, it kind of seals itself. Yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to ramble about the throttle body. This super simple, just nothing over here. You got steering linkage, nothing else. Super simple engine, super simple vehicle, but this dang throttle body, when it comes to idling, is just, it's a pain. I don't want to take it off and clean it and refurbish it unless I have to. You know, replacement kits for gaskets and whatnot are not that expensive and pretty readily available, shockingly enough. I just got to make sure it's the right kit, because I've been sold parts that they say they're for $90 and they're not. There's stores out there that will sell you stuff. Yeah, it works for the 1990 Suzuki Sidekick, and no, it's a 91 plus part. And they don't realize that 89 and 90 were unique in a lot of different ways. Yeah, the duty cycle trick is kind of the hack to really getting this thing tuned up. I got to figure out a better way to tap into this, because I want to do it again and just to see, because once you get this set, then you can come in and get your throttle body tuned up. But you don't do that until you got this and this set. Once we get that done, then we can go in and set our throttle position sensor to where it needs to be. It could already be, I don't know. I need to measure it and see. But just little things like that. Once we get you know, this air filter back on and some wheels, and we drive it around a bit, we'll really see where this thing's at. Yeah, throttle body talk. This thing could be a nightmare. We'll see.